Hey, it's so good to be in the kitchen with you today. I'm Courtney Rich with Cake by Courtney, and today we're making my chocolate banana bundt cake. Now this is one that I've made as a layered cake, and I've paired with chocolate buttercream and a banana cream filling. I'll link that recipe for you below because it's divine. But the cake layers in that cake are so flavorful and moist, they can stand alone. And I'm gonna prove that to you today with the bundt cake. We're not making anything to go on top. This one is just gonna be the cake itself, and you're gonna love it. It's got some mini chocolate chip morsels in there too, so you get a little texture element in there, but it's divine. And I feel like when you do cake without a frosting, it becomes like a breakfast food. So basically, we're doing muffins if we're just doing the cupcakes, or with the bundt cake, I'm like, great, we'll serve that for breakfast because it's got bananas in it, so it feels like a banana bread. But so moist, so flavorful, and really easy to mix up and get this one nailed perfectly. Before we start mixing our ingredients in, I'm actually just gonna combine my dry ingredients, which include my all-purpose flour, my cocoa powder, and just so you know, cocoa powder, the type you use, matters so much. I highly recommend, I wish I could enforce this, but I just recommend you use extra brute cacao berry cocoa powder. So it's a bittersweet. Don't let that make you nervous, because remember, we're adding all the sweet stuff to balance that. But because it's that bittersweet, it's a good quality brand. It's like that high chocolate, high fat. It's gonna enhance the texture and the flavor of any of your cakes or desserts that have cocoa powder in them. So if you were to make the same cake with your extra brute and then make it with like the Hershey's from the grocery store, they'll taste so different because that chocolate is so different in quality and also how much fat's in there and the richness. So if you want all your chocolate stuff that you're making, whether it's cookies or it's brownies or it's cake, get the good stuff. It is such a game changer. You'll be so happy you do. So I'm gonna just whisk that together. My dry ingredients, set that aside. I've already prepped my pan, by the way. So 12 cup. This is the Nordic Ware anniversary pan. It's my favorite. It'll just work for all. It's got a great design, but it works for just all my recipes to turn them into a bundt pan. Sprayed it with nonstick spray, and then take a close look. I dusted it with sugar. You could have dusted it with cocoa powder on a chocolate cake or with flour, but I just like that little extra sweetness around the edges with the granulated sugar. So that's prepped, ready to go. I'm gonna start with my room temperature butter. If you've made cake with me before, you know the importance of room temperature ingredients. And if you are a new friend here, let's review it really quickly. Room temperature ingredients are so important because they are gonna help your ingredients blend really well together, and then they're better absorbed by the dry ingredients. And both of those things really help your cake to have a just wonderful, tender texture and a nice rise to the cake. So room temperature butter, eggs, buttermilk, sour cream going into this one. Let's mix up the butter, the brown sugar, and the granulated sugar. Also important to note, I'm gonna scrape down the sides and bottom of the bowl so everything mixes evenly. But at the beginning, when you're making your cake batter, for this cake or any of my recipes, you do want to have the mixer on a high speed, maybe like medium to high, so that you can get a light and fluffy texture. And we are incorporating a little bit of air into the batter at this point. That's okay. It's when we add the dry ingredients, turn the speed down and just mix on low until things are incorporated. Because over mixing once you add the flour causes it to be dense and it won't rise as well because you're overworking the gluten and making it tough. We don't want that. To this, I'm gonna add some vanilla and then my eggs. It looks like it needs a little scrape along the sides. And the next thing we're gonna add are the mashed bananas. So you're looking for bananas that have been sitting out on your counter for a week. The ones that are starting to turn brown, they're gonna have the best flavor and provide the best texture for our baked goods. Here's a fun fact though. If you have bananas and they're still green or they're really, really yellow and they do not look like they're close to browning and that they wouldn't be good in your cake or your breads, you can brown them on your own and speed up that process. So what I did this morning actually, turned my oven to 300 degrees and I put my bananas, they were yellow and green, I put my bananas on a baking sheet and I just put them in the oven for like 30 minutes. And you will see that the peel starts to turn black, like you leave the peel on. My kids came down and saw the bananas on the counter and were so grossed out. They're like, what happened to these bananas? And I'm like, oh, we just made them perfect for the cake today. And they were like so grossed out because they were pure black, but that's what we're going for. Now my bananas are ready to go in the cake. So let's mix this a little bit more. Remember with your cake batter, once you add the butter, sugar, your eggs, we want that to be really smooth, light and fluffy. Now, with kind of a lowish speed, I am gonna add my bananas. Turn that up just a tad to get those mixed in nicely. All right, now we want that low speed because we're gonna start adding the dry ingredients and we don't wanna overmix. So I'm gonna alternate adding some of my dry ingredients. And in this recipe, I have a little bit of buttermilk and some sour cream. So we'll add a little bit of both each time in between adding the flour. The buttermilk and the sour cream are just gonna create such a great texture. The fat there, the moisture, you're gonna love that. A little bit more there. And then let's finish the buttermilk. Let that mix a little bit. Our sour cream. And then we'll finish with the rest of the cocoa powder. And at this point, we're just going to mix until there's no streaks of flour. And I'll finish it by mixing by hand to just make sure we have everything from the bottom and everything's incorporated nicely. But I like to do that just with a spatula or wooden spoon so I don't overmix the batter, and we'll add our mini chocolate chips. So grab that spatula and then let's just kind of stir this together. Break up any clumps that might be there. I can see I have a little bit at the bottom that was not getting totally mixed in. And this is just a gentle stir. And to this, we're gonna add our mini chocolate chips. If your batter is on the thinner side, not with this cake necessarily, but with the cake, you can even dust your mini chocolate chips in a little bit of cocoa powder or flour. That's gonna help like grip onto the cake batter so they don't sink. But I feel like with this cake, you can see it's got this great texture here. It's not too runny. I think these chocolate chips are gonna hold up great in the batter. Now I've got my prepared bundt pan. So let's just evenly distribute the batter in the bundt pan and get it in the oven. Let's just smooth out the top of that. Honestly, the only problem with this cake is it takes a little while to bake. That's the only problem. So we're gonna put this in the oven at 325 for a little over an hour. About an hour and 15, depending on your oven. Check on it at an hour, see where it's at, but it could take up to like 75 minutes. If you want it to go a little bit faster, you could bump up the temperature to 350 and then check it at like 50 minutes. Now remember, we let this cool completely in the bundt pan before we're gonna flip it out. That helps a ton. Of course, you coat it like we did so it doesn't stick, but letting it cool completely in the bundt pan is gonna help so much. All right, why do I feel like I need to say a prayer before any time I flip this over? I don't know, I do, but here we go, hold your breath. You kind of slam, oh, and then you like hear it drop and you're so happy because, hello! She's just so good on her own. You've got the bananas, the chocolate, but with that banana, the chocolate, in there, those things are making this cake so moist that you really don't have to add anything on top. All right, you can, you absolutely can. Go grab my chocolate ganache recipe, buttercream recipes. I love this one with a peanut butter buttercream or a peanut butter drizzle if you like that combo. It's one of my favorites. But so many different options, or leave it as is, because this cake, I mean, it's just so good on its own. Let's get a slice of the chocolate banana bundt cake. Oh, she's just lovely. You can just see how moist this cake is. And the flavor is gonna be so yummy with that good cocoa powder that we used. Like I said, you don't even need anything on top of this. It's heaven. You guys, make this right now. Look at this texture. Are you kidding me? You can see the moisture in this cake. It is so good. I'm sorry if you hate that word. It's the fact of life here. And I love that you just get the surprise of a chocolate chip with every bite. It's so delightful. The flavor is so yummy. Get the recipe down below. Head over to cakebycourtney.com to start whipping this up. You're gonna love it. I'll see you next time.